Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the Music Chronicles Podcast. I'm your host, Angelo Sarmiento, and I hope you guys are doing well. So, the thing is, this intro is actually being recorded weeks after the original podcast was recorded. Originally, I had a different intro because I wasn't really sure what the direction of this podcast was going to be. This was just sort of a very off-the-cuff thing I recorded that I ended up really liking, and now it's on the band's website, so welcome everyone. Glad you decided to stop by. Now, before we get started, I kind of wanted to briefly talk about what this podcast is going to be about. So, the Music Chronicles Podcast is going to be a platform where me, my bandmates, or anybody else I bring on are going to be talking any and all things music, whether that's us talking about our favorite artists or first shows we ever went to, or in the case of any other musicians that I bring on, we will be talking about our journeys and personal experiences in being musicians and trying to make a seemingly impossible dream come true. Now, this first episode very much falls within that last category. So, the thing is, when I first joined Submit Thy Will, I was the new guy in the band. Currently, our newest member is Andrew on the bass, who ended up replacing our original bass player, Anthony, who was a founding member on the band. But before him, it was me. And I kind of wanted to tell the story of Submit Thy Will, but from the perspective of quote-unquote the new guy. So, without further ado, so it all started when I enrolled in college. I had never really been in a band before, aside from my high school's jazz band in my senior year. And the only other experience that I really ever had playing drums with any other musicians was my dad has a friend, Dennis, who plays in a bunch of like local cover bands, just things like that. They'll usually play like parties or weddings, stuff like that. And I had sat in with them a couple of times, but I had never been in my own band before. I had never written any original music, and going into college was a big time of change for me. You know, I'm just leaving high school, and I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do the rest of my life. Hell, I mean, I'm 23, almost 24 years old. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do the rest of my life. And I just knew that to my core, I'm a drummer. I need to be in a band. So first thing I did, like as soon as I could, I put out flyers. I made a bunch of flyers just, saying like, hey, drummer, looking for a band, serious inquiries only. I play this kind of music. I like Nirvana, Metallica, Rush, Foo Fighters, stuff like that. And I'm just looking to join a rock band. Anybody who's looking. And I posted those around a few different music stores, one in Huntsville, a few in Conroe, and one in the Woodlands, I think. And I was very surprised by the responses that I got. I got a lot of calls and a lot of texts, but the problem is none of them really went anywhere. There was this one band. They were a punk band. I don't remember where they were from, but the singer, Holly, reached out to me, and she was the first one that actually seemed like kind of a serious person or a serious musician. Like, I looked up her band and I really liked it. I thought it was really cool stuff. Like, it was sort of this like punk kind of thing, but they also had this really cool melodic side, and there was just a clip of her just ripping on the piano, and it's just like this is like really different. This is really cool. And I was very excited about that band until she kind of just straight up ghosted me. So I had communicated with her back and forth a little bit, and at first it seemed promising, but I I think once I made it clear to her that I was a student, this is just the impression I got. She never was open about this, about like why she never really responded to me, but she kept making up excuses like I wanted to meet up with them and audition. And long story short, it just never worked out. She just kind of ghosted me a bit and we never spoke again. And there were a few more just like little calls and texts like that never really went anywhere. But eventually I got a call from our lead singer, Shane. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but I would find out years later that they had seen my flyer in Huntsville. Well, when I say they, Shane and his then girlfriend, Jen, who would later become his wife, found my flyer in Huntsville. And at the time, they had a drummer, Alex, who just wasn't working out, wasn't a very serious player. Long story short, it didn't work out between Alex, and they were looking for a drummer, and they were already kind of thinking of kicking him out of the band. And Jen kept pointing out that flyer to him, just going like, hey, you need to snag up that flyer before somebody else grabs it. And, I guess Shane was kind of on the fence about it, basically just saying like, oh, I don't know. I mean, we'll see if we can try to work things out. And then eventually it became very clear that it wasn't going to work out. And he just snagged up my flyer, gave me a phone call. Now, when he made the call, I remember exactly where I was whenever I got the call. It's so weird. Like, my memory is normally so, I have a very shitty memory, to be honest. But I don't know. It was just this weird thing that like really stuck with me. I remember exactly where I was. I was in Liberty, Texas. Me and my older cousin, Andy, were visiting our other cousin, Kimberly, because, we haven't seen her at the time. We hadn't really seen her in years. And we just wanted to just hang out for a bit, catch up, and we were going to McDonald's, and I remember telling them, like, hey, guys, just so you know, I put up a flyer, wanting to audition for bands, and I've been getting a lot of calls and messages, so if I have to take a call, like, I'll just let you know, and I just need to, I just might have to take a call. And they were like, all right, cool, no worries. And I got the call from Shane, and he started kind of asking me some questions, like, hey, like, my name is Shane. I saw your flyer. And, we were basically just chatting for a bit. I don't remember the exact conversation, but essentially he was just asking me about my drumming, how long I've been doing it, and, how familiar I was with metal, and if I knew how to play a double bass pedal. And we just kind of chatted for a bit, and then we were like, all right, I just need to talk to the rest of the band, and we'll get back to you. And I'm like, all right, cool, sounds good. And I didn't really think much of it at the time, but then not too long after that, I got another phone call from Shane. I think where was I? I was about to say I was heading from work, but at the time I didn't have a job, actually, come to think of it. I got a job not long after I joined the band. I think I was just heading home one day, and I got another call from Shane, and he was like, hey, so we just wanted to have a chat with you and sort of do like a little impromptu interview. I've got my guitarist here, Josue, and technically our bass player, Anthony, is here. And I was like, oh, what do you mean? And he was like, well, we're kind of in the hospital right now. Our bass player's in the hospital. And I was just like, oh, is this a bad time? Like, do you want me to call? He's like, nah, it's fine, whatever. It's so funny looking. Okay, so Anthony had a bunch of health issues, and I guess I don't remember exactly what it was. I think he had like pneumonia or something at the time, and he was in the hospital. And just to clarify, he was doing okay. Like, the doctors had him all sorted, but he was just kind of sleeping. And originally they were there to pay him a visit, but to see if he could take the phone call. But he was knocked out, and they're like, well, we're here. We may as well just do this now. And basically, we talked a bit more, and we decided where we were going to meet. We were going to meet at Anthony's place in Huntsville, and he sent me the address. And I was just like, okay, cool. Well, yeah. And I don't know what it was about that conversation, but like, because to be honest, I don't really remember a whole lot of how it went down, but I remember just getting a very cool vibe from them and thinking like, oh, wow, this is the first serious one. I think because it was sort of a phone interview. Like, and Josue was involved, and Shane was there. Obviously, Anthony was knocked the fuck out, so he wasn't really asking too many questions. But I remember thinking, it's like, wow, this is like professional. Like, they're like doing like an interview before with the rest of the band, or at least most of the rest of the band, before like we meet. That's cool. Okay, so it got me really excited about it, and I was like, man, this is like maybe this, and we are actually meeting somewhere. We have a set day, set time, and I told my dad about this, and I'll be honest, I was a little nervous going into this because they were strangers. It was in Huntsville, and I basically just asked my dad. I was like, "Hey, do you mind like coming with me to the audition, because I don't know any of these guys and I just feel a little weird, and like I'm excited to do this. They seem okay, but I also don't know them. Like, are you cool with coming with me?" He was like, "Absolutely." And so we make our way to Huntsville. And, I asked the guys, I was like, hey, just so you know, I'm also, like, with my dad. Like, is that okay? Like, is that okay? I just wanted to have somebody with me. Like, is that cool? And in Shane, like, I mean, we were just texting, but he was just like, yeah, of course, no problem. And I was just like, okay, cool. That's another cool thing. They were cool about it. They weren't weirded out by it, So we went and made our way to Huntsville, where we meet up with the rest of the guys there. We finally officially meet. I officially meet Anthony in there, who was finally out of the hospital. And we go into the back room. Shane's got his dad's drum set up back there, and I've brought my sticks, and I brought some headphones just for like ear protection or whatever. And we just kind of get in the room and we just jam a little bit. And like, they're like, all right, what do you know? And I was just like, all right, well, you guys listen to any Nirvana? And they were like, yeah, sure. And then I was like, okay, do you know the song In Bloom? And they're like, ooh, no, we don't, but we'd love to learn it. And we kind of they go through the tabs of it. Like, I kind of show them the song and like how it goes. And, I kind of start them off, and we just kind of jam that song for a bit. And it's funny because I asked Josue, damn it, I almost said his fucking name wrong. I have a bad habit of pronouncing his name in like the whitest way possible, even though I'm also Hispanic, but I'm also white, so that's where that part comes in. Anyway, doesn't matter. Not cutting that out. And I asked Josue about it once, and he was just like, yeah, we were really relieved you didn't just say Smells Like Teen Spirit, because we were just like, oh god, this is gonna be the most generic motherfucker. He didn't say it like that, but like essentially he was just worried. I was like, oh god, here we go, another guy wants to play Smells Like Teen Spirit. But then I said In Bloom, and they were like, oh shit, okay, that's something different. All right, let's learn that. And so we learn it, and I don't believe we really went over any of their songs that day. I could be wrong. I think maybe they showed me a little bit of like Omaha, but which, you heard a little bit of the demo of that earlier. And we just jammed, and we just got along really well. Like, from the get-go, I just had a really good vibe about everybody, and they seemed to get, I guess clearly they got a good vibe off of me. I mean, here I'm talking, okay, so just for clarification, and I didn't even say when this story takes place. So I joined the band, or at least I auditioned for the band sometime in the July of 2017, and we're in 2021 now, October of 2021. So that's been like, Jesus, like later on in 2022, it'll be going on 5 years. That's crazy to me. Like, it's so weird to think how time flies. Anyway, sorry, I just had to take a moment there. But yeah, I got a really good vibe from them, and I remember as I was leaving, Shane or Josue, one of them said something along the lines, like, as I was leaving with my dad and packing up my stuff, they're like, man, we had a great time, and we really think this is gonna like work out really well. And I was just like, I do too. I just kind of nodded at them for a bit, and then we went our ways. And the next time that I went over there, let me just be clear. I'm not going to go like day by day. No one has that kind of memory. I do not have that like elephant's memory where I like literally remember everything. But but I am going to talk about the next rehearsal that we had. So I got in contact with them again, and they were like, "Hey, we wanted to rehearse Monday again. Are you free? Like, did you want to like come and jam with us?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I can come by after school or whatever." And they were like, just by the way, is your dad gonna be there again?" I mean, they said it. I don't remember who exactly said it. It was probably Shane, to be honest. He's usually the most like sociable out of all of us, and they, like, I could tell like he was trying to be very nice and just asked like, "Hey, is your dad gonna be there?" But like he didn't say it like that. He was just like, "Hey, so like just so you know, like, is your dad gonna be there?" And I was like, "No, it's just gonna be me this time." It was like, "Oh, cool." And in his head, he's probably thinking like, "Oh, thank God." Like, thank God his fucking dad isn't gonna be there. This child bringing in his dad to practice. We rehearsed again at that time, and this time we did go, I believe we did jam around with In Bloom a little bit, but then we kind of started getting into their music. We were playing Omaha and a bunch of different stuff. What did they have out at the time? Well, technically they didn't have anything out as far as like on any like streaming thing or whatever. Like they had about 5 songs written, if I remember correctly. Okay, let me see if I can remember the order of it. So at the time they had written, I should say, Omaha, Two of Me, The Great Getaway. Ooh, no. Okay, I was about to say Tritamos, which you heard at the beginning of this, but at the time it was not called Tritamos. So they had a song that they wrote with their old drummer, Alex, who wrote the lyrics to the song Diseased, which would later become Tritamos because they needed to scrap the lyrics, but I mean, we'll get into that a little bit more later. And what was the other one? Her, yes. Okay, so Her, the acoustic song that we have, and that was basically all they had written. And I think at the time they just showed me Omaha and Two of Me, and we rehearsed that a bit, and I don't remember if it was at this rehearsal or another one, but they kind of started to like see how I would write things. And I came up with this fill. There's like a little break in there right before we get into the chorus, and I think at the time Alex it just had a very simple kind of fill, just like very like around the kit, like da ga do 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 do, just like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then just into the next part. And I ended up coming up with sort of a variation of that, a little bit faster. It was more in 16th notes as opposed to just 8th notes. And what I did was I essentially did it, here I'm calling his fill simple. Mine is just as fucking simple as it. It's stupidly simple. In fact, it's like literally one of the first fills that you learn as a metal drummer. Not even as a, like, if you're just working with double bass, it's the first fill you learn. It's just like 2 on the hands, 2 on the feet. So literally the fill in there is, and that's it. And then you're into the next part. And hopefully the audio, it looks like the audio captured that. Here, you know what? Let me see if I can play a little sample of that just so you can get an idea of what it is. Yeah, but there you go. Very simple fill, nothing to really write home about, but I don't know. It's weird for me to sort of talk negatively about somebody that I've never met, that I don't know them as a person. I can just only go off of what my bandmates have all told me about him. And I guess just he wasn't that great of a drummer. And I've heard clips from him, and there's bits where I've heard potential in there, but I've never really found anything that I really liked that much. And so pretty much with all our songs, like I, for the most part, ignored what he did. And I just went off of what I would naturally do for the song, which I think for any musician, I mean, I think that's just the best he can do, especially whenever the parts, there's not that much to them. Like now, I mean, if I was in a different band and the drummer was like playing just like the perfect thing for it, I wouldn't change a damn thing. But like this was just like a very rough kind of thing. And I didn't really do anything that Alex did. So, but anyway, I guess they they were just so used to having a drummer that didn't really care, that never stuck to his parts. Like, he always would like change them, and whenever they got with me, I guess for them it was just very like refreshing. I mean, I can't really totally speak to that. I mean, I can only go off of what they've told me, but I guess it was just kind of very refreshing to have a drummer that actually, I mean, for lack of a better way of saying it, actually gave a shit, really, and tried. and I guess that just sort of was kind of the first thing where they really started to see who I was as a musician, or who I could be. And I mean, shit, we've been together ever since, really. And over the years, well, actually, let me kind of keep it within this same early period of Submit Thy Will. Well, actually, so here's another little detail that I have failed to mention yet. We were not always called Submit Thy Will. Originally, the name was Time to Kill, and for various reasons, we had to change the name. I probably won't get into that right now. Right now, at this moment, it's not really relevant to the story, at least at this point. So I'll just move on. And sort of keeping it within that early period of me joining the band, getting to know the guys a bit more, starting to learn the songs and help them write and create. They kind of sit me down for a talk on Anthony's porch, and they asked me essentially what they were asking. They were asking me how serious I was about this band and wanting to be a musician. And I mean, I can't remember exactly how the conversation went down, but it was something along the lines of, I mean, I was just like, well, I've wanted to be in a band, and not only be in a band, but I've wanted to play music for a living since I was a kid. It's what I've always dreamed of. Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to do this. And they kind of explained to me, they're like, okay, cool. That's good to hear. The reason why we're asking you this is because we have a producer, and we want to start recording a demo that will eventually turn into an album. And we need to get our songs copywritten before I leave. Well, before Shane leaves. And Shane's Mormon, and he was about to leave for a year on a mission trip. And what they wanted to do was they wanted to get their songs copywritten. That way, you know, we as artists have a right to the songs, and as just sort of a thing to commit us to this band. You know, we have these songs recorded, copywritten, and whenever Shane comes back, we're gonna record and go full force with this and try to make this happen. And they didn't get into all that at the time, but that's essentially what was happening. And basically, they were telling me about their producer, Paul, our producer, I should say. And they were like, okay, we want you to meet our producer, and we're going to have a talk about the future of this band and like what we want to do. They didn't say all that, but that's what was happening. And so about a week later, we make a little trip to Trinity, Texas, where Paul lived with his wife, Brenda, and his kids, Jen and James. Jen is, you know, Shane's wife. At the time, she still lived with her parents. And we go over there, this house, very lovely house, very warm, welcoming. And, you know, I meet Jen and James, and they're both very, like, cool and, like, you know, like, chatting with me. They could tell, you know, I think they could both tell, like, how quiet I was. Jen especially, she could kind of pick up on that. And they were just trying to sort of make me feel welcome, make me feel comfortable, and just kind of hang out and chat with me for a bit. And like, oh, you're the drummer, you're Angelo, hey, what's up? And just like kind of chatting with me. And eventually we all kind of sit in Paul's living room, and Paul breaks down what the plan is. This would be the first of many Paul Shiver meetings that I would be present to and a part of, and it's kind of funny thinking back on that because I feel like every now and again, it's not too often, but Paul wants to have a little meeting, a little powwow of like whatever we're doing, and it's just kind of funny thinking back on like the first one, and at the time I had really no idea what what this was, what it was really about. I mean, I had some idea that it was just sort of like an official, like, hey, welcome to the band, but also we need to get serious about this kind of talk. But it was just, I didn't really know what I was in for. It's funny thinking back on it. So Paul breaks down the plan to me. I mean, he addresses the group, obviously, but like this was to me, the new guy. And he breaks down to me. So Shane is about to leave on a mission trip for 2 years, and we want to get this demo recorded. That way, we all have, like, all of you guys have your artist rights, your writer's rights. We want to include you in that, but before we do, we need to know how serious you are about this, and we need to know what you want your future to be with this band, because I don't know if you realize this, but I think he said something along the lines of, I'm just picturing this, and I'm just trying to say this in the most Paul way I can think of. He's just like, look, my boys here have been doing this for a very long time, and, we just want to, this is a terrible impression. I'm going to stop now. I can't even. Oh, God. I'm probably never going to show Paul this, but, like, I'm probably never going to show anybody this, really. But, oh, my God, that's not even at all a good impression of how Paul speaks at all. He has a very specific way of speaking, and I can't really nail it exactly. But essentially, he was like, look, my boys have been working on this for a long time, and before we bring you in, we just want to make sure that you're committed to this, that you want to be a part of this. This is what you want to do, because the plan is we want this to be their jobs, and my role is to kind of help push them along, to be their producer, their manager, to make something of this, because we can make something of this, but we need to know how committed you are. And like this part of it, I remember very vividly, and I remember really appreciating. I still like very much appreciate it at the time. I start to kind of open my mouth to answer, and he was just like, no, hold on. I don't want you to answer this right away, because I know this is a big thing that we're asking of you. This is a very serious commitment that we're asking you to make. And I really think you need to, I really need you to like think about this, take your time with it, and like come back to us, because, clearly these guys really like you, and they really, they think you're a great addition to the band, but, we need to make sure you're serious. So if you need to take any time, like, just think about it. And I really appreciated that, because I'm not going to lie, I did feel a little on the spot, because clearly the meeting was kind of becoming a bit about me, and about like how, okay, we need to make sure we have a serious drummer that's committed to this. That way we're not having to audition again, and like in a week he's going to be gone, or anything crazy like that. And I really appreciated and needed to hear that I was allowed to, like, allowed. That's kind of a weird word to use, but that they wanted me to take my time. I can't remember exactly how it went, but I honestly didn't think I took much time at all, really. I just kind of was like, no, this is what I want. It's not even a question, and I really love being around these guys, and I want to be in it for the long haul. And then I don't remember how long it was after that, but Paul had got me set up on BMI, like registered as an official like BMI artist. That way I could be on the copyrights. And then I went away for a little bit. I was gone for maybe about a week, and the whole time I was just thinking about, man, I want to get back to this band and get back to work, because we have now 7 songs at this point. I don't remember how long it took us to get to 7. I think maybe it was about a month or something. I could be wrong. My memory is a little fuzzy on it, but at the time we had 7 songs. So listing them off in order. As I mentioned earlier, we had Omaha, Two of Me, Great Getaway. Disease had now become Tratamos. They had to scrap the lyrics, and essentially Tratamos became, Tratamos is like rough Spanish for we tried, and the lyrics sort of became about their old drummer Alex and how they tried to keep him along, but, they've lost their brother now, and now we have to move on, essentially. And Her, so at the time that was the last one, but before I had left and in the time we had spent together, we had written 2 more songs. We had written Louder Than Words and Starting Over, which would become our first single that we would ever release. I don't have an official recording on here, so I don't really want to bother playing the demo for you, but, hey, it's just going to be my family and friends, whoever listen to this, so, they already know what Starting Over sounds like. They're probably fucking sick of it, considering it's our only song at the moment. We play it at every show. Yeah, but we got to work. I came back from vacation, and I traveled all the way to Paul's house to record, and I'd showed up, gosh, I don't even remember. I had showed up a little early because I don't think I really asked what time was a good time. I just knew the day, and I never got back to them about like, oh yeah, what time should I show up? I was just like, oh, well, I kind of want to get there early, so let me get there early. And I think I maybe showed up around like 10 or something, and everybody's dead asleep. They had had a long night the night before, and so everybody was there. Obviously, Paul and his kids and Brenda were all there. They live there, like, obviously. And Shane, Anthony, and Josue are all there. They're kind of like curled up in their own place. I'm sure Shane was with Jen at the time, and Anthony was like curled up on the couch, and Josue was curled up somewhere else. And I had gotten up pretty early that morning, and I was pretty tired, so I was just like, all right, fuck it, I'm asleep. And okay, so I have to go on a little quick tangent about Anthony real quick. So Anthony has sleep apnea really fucking bad. Like, really bad. Like, I think I have it, and I have like a problem with snoring, but like nothing compared to this. So Anthony, I had heard stories, right? So there's this story that this really funny story of like they were in a hotel room once, and this is before I knew any of them, and Shane and Jen just like walk into like Anthony's hotel room because they hear him snoring really badly, and he is just like a possessed like demon or something. He's just like sitting upright, like kind of shoulder slumped, head hanging, hair in his face, and he's just kind of like moving back and forth as he's sitting, and he's just like that probably sounds so disgusting, but that's exactly how it fucking sounds. And no, it sounds worse than that, to be quite honest. And and like I guess like Josue was in the room just kind of looking at his phone or whatever, and they're like, what, is he okay? And then Josue's just like, he does that, and he not even looking up from his phone, he's just like, he does that. And I had heard the story, but I had never actually seen it before for myself. And I curl up on the couch next to Anthony, like on the opposite end of it, and I was just like, all right, nap time, cool. And I just hear and I'm just like, what the fuck is that? And I just wake up and I'm like, oh my God, it's real. It's Anthony. And it's the exact same thing. Shoulders slumped. He's kind of like sitting up, and he's just like, or like whatever. And then I'm just laughing and I'm like filming him and I'm like just trying so hard to like keep quiet. And then at one point he just like kicks me in his sleep, and at this point I'm dying, and he feels that like he kicks someone. He has no idea it's me or that I'm there. And he sort of kind of wakes up from his slumber, not really. Like he's just sort of he's in that weird middle stage. And he's just like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." And I'm just like trying not to laugh. And I'm just like, "Oh, you're good, man. No worries." And he's just like, "Oh, okay." He just immediately goes back to sleep. Oh, God. It was so funny. I love it. I love it. It's so great. Anyway, so that was like a little quick tangent. Anyway, we get to recording. And I don't remember how long it took. I think I maybe stayed there. I really don't remember how long. I think I stayed at Paul's for like a week. And, during that time, we were just like recording every night. And we were just recording every night and, just hanging out, getting to know everybody, had some great food, just got to know the guys a little better, got to know Jen and James a little better, just playing some like Cards of Humanity, trying and failing to learn that game, Magic the Gathering, which I'm terrible at, and I still have no idea how to play that game like at all. It's so confusing. James and Josue are very good at it, and that's it, and Anthony as well. I don't yeah, anyway. But yeah, just hanging out, recording that whole week, and we finally get the demo done. Cut 2 weeks later, Paul has got a rough mix of Omaha, and he's got us all gathered in the room. Oh, man. When I tell you the feeling that I had hearing that for the first time, I'll never forget it. Seriously. So, Paul sets the scene for us, for me really, and because everybody else I think had heard it at the time, and he hands me the headphones, and oh man, I wish I could remember exactly what he said, because it was just a beautiful painting of the picture, and he was like, "All right, I want you to close your eyes." So I closed my eyes, and he basically says something along the lines of this, and he was just like, "All right, now I want you to imagine that Time to Kill." Remember at this time, we're called Time to Kill, not Submit Thy Will. And I want you to imagine you're at the Toyota Center, and, the lights are completely out. There's like a little bit of fog gathering, and, the crowd is cheering, just waiting in anticipation. And, then all of a sudden, there's just a beam of light that comes down. And then you hear this.
Some sand. Now let us pounding at the door. Time to become a man. Gunshots and casings all around.
I wish that could do that justice, what I felt. That is not really going to give it justice to what I felt that day, but I was floored. Really, I was. I was floored. I was excited. I was moved. I've never really heard myself on a recording before at that time. I never really heard myself. Jeez, I'm having trouble speaking right now. I don't even know how to describe it. I was just blown away. I mean, if I could pinpoint a moment where I had kind of really made my mind up and made my decision, I think that was the moment where I was like, this is going to work. I'm going to be in this band for the rest of my life, And I just... Sorry, I can feel myself getting emotional just thinking about it. It's been so long since I've really ever thought about this, and really, I don't think I've ever really told anybody this, like how I felt in that moment, but it's something really special that sticks out to me. And yeah, that was sort of the beginning story of how I joined what would eventually become Submit Thy Will. And I think I'm going to cut it off here because this is already getting pretty long, and unfortunately I have to go to work, so that's fun. But yeah, that was sort of the story from my perspective on how I joined Submit Thy Will, and I think I'm going to continue this as like a little series of podcasts that I'm going to do where I talk about my journey in Submit Thy Will as the new guy. I'm definitely not the new guy anymore, but I don't know. A lot of times I still feel like I am, which I shouldn't. But anyway, yeah. Thank you for anyone who ever listens to this for giving me the time to share this with you. I've really wanted to mess around with podcast format forever, and I doubt this will ever be released, but this just felt right. It felt right for me to start talking about, my story and just my journey with this band. If I ever show this to any of my, bandmates, Shane, Josue, Andrew, even Anthony, who's no longer with the band, but we'll get into that another time. I love all of you guys. Paul, Jen, James, Brenda, all the Shivers, really, just being incredibly supportive. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this while I try to figure out what the hell this project is. But, yeah, so this is going to be the start of my podcast journey, and I hope I can count on you guys to join in. Signing off. Goodbye.